what were the defining moments that brought about your career path to start to mold and become the man that you became? Could you explain to us? And then Joel will tell us about how he proceeded to grow up and find what he wanted to be in his life.
Many times people say that, from the time I was 10 years old or 11 years old or 12 or bar mitzvah, I wanted to be XYZ, right? In my case, it was not that way. In my case, by the time I was 13, I wanted to be a reporter. I wanted to go into journalism. I wanted to write, right? That's what I had in mind, right? So the whole thing of ending up in yeshiva and ending up having a yeshiva and a congregation and so forth, that was just Yad Hashem. It's Yad Hashem. Here I am, a 15-year-old boy going to public school, right? Garfield High School.
Amazing.
And we're fine. We're religious. We have the kahal. We have the shul. We ate kosher. We're fine. We're right. And what am I missing? Not missing anything. I wasn't thinking about going away 2,000 miles to Chicago, right?
Right.
But one day, my uncle, Alav Shalom, Rabbi Maimon, he calls me. He says, "There's a Rabbi Stamfer over here traveling the West Coast and enrolling and interviewing boys for the yeshiva in Chicago. Would you be interested to meet him?" I said, "Yes." Don't ask me why. Why am I interested? Why should I be interested? Right? A boy growing up, a teenager. Yeah. But anyway, I met and I was interested, and that was it. And before a lot of time went by, I'm on a train going to Chicago, 2 days and 2 nights, coach, right? And discovering a lot of America that I would never have seen before. Let me tell you that Montana is huge. There's no end to Montana. We fell asleep in Montana. We woke up in Montana. Lots of Montana. But anyway, years later, I asked my mother, I said, "Mom, why did you agree to let me go?" She looked at me and she said, "I don't know."
Wow.
So I don't know why I went, and I don't know why she agreed that I should go, but it was clearly just Yad Hashem. And from that point on, I started taking interest in yeshiva, interest in learning, and interest in one day, hopefully, establishing a Sephardic yeshiva. So it was a little bit different than the young boy at the young age that has this ambition, and right. It was never in my mind, but this is called hashgacha peratit. HaKadosh Baruch Hu guides us.
That is wonderful to hear. Okay, Joel, as you got older.
I stayed in Seattle and went to high school, and when I was 16, I needed to get a part-time job after school, and I got the job working for my uncle Jack Myman, who was a butcher, and it was one of several kosher butcher shops in Seattle, and he delivered. So I got to drive the delivery van as soon as I got my driver's license. The day I got my driver's license, I went in and asked for the job because I heard that another cousin was leaving for college, and those jobs rotated through the family. We had 2 uncles who had a grocery store, 1 uncle who had a butcher shop, and between us, every one of the nephews ended up driving a truck. So, but the interesting thing there is I became close to that particular uncle, an amazing man. Now, he was the grandfather of Rabbi Yaakov Maimon, bears the same name, at the Mikdash Melech Yerushalayim. And of course, that young Jack was not yet born. But for 4 years that I had that job, 2 years of college, 2 years of high school, and 2 years of college, I learned a very great deal under my uncle's wing. He was an extraordinary individual, very, very knowledgeable, learned, expressing words of Torah in a practical application at every turn.
Wow.
Guided 100%. by belief and practice. That was an eye-opening experience for me for 4 years. So I went on and I finished college at the University of Washington, got my degree in political science, and I, like my brother said earlier, I was one of those who had my eye on becoming an attorney. Very early in my life, my dream was to go to law school. And so right after college, I like to say that our generation in college, we were bookended at the beginning and at the end by major life changes that had over which we had no control. We call ourselves bookends. The first quarter of my freshman year of college, which was in 1963, 2 months in, John F. Kennedy was assassinated. Mm-hmm. And 4 years later, as I was getting ready to graduate from college, the Vietnam War was raging and everybody was getting a draft notice. In fact, during my first year of law school, 1967, the rules changed. You no longer had a deferment unless you were in your second year of law school. So myself and all of my colleagues in our first year of law school got reclassified. We were now eligible for the draft. And the Vietnam War was very controversial, and many of us were determined not to serve in Vietnam. So 2 things happened in that first year of law school for me. One is unexpectedly getting a draft notice.
Oh boy.
And the second thing is very, very unfortunate. Our father passed away suddenly at a very young age. He was 62. He drove himself to the hospital for testing. He was going to stay overnight. And while in the hospital, I happened to be home because it was the week of Hanukkah. And he had a massive heart attack and never came out of the hospital. So those were life-changing events that occurred that I had to overcome. And anyway, so I graduated from law school, and I could go on into the business side of the career, but that brings us right up to the early 1970s.
How did you, Joel? How did you handle the draft? You didn't finish how you got around that?
So I was extremely fortunate that I was able to enlist in a local Army Reserve unit. Mm-hmm. So I had to leave law school for a year. I went away for 6 months on active duty, and then another 5.5 years in reserves. But by doing that, I was enabled, many other young men did the same thing, enabled them to finish their education and were guaranteed of not having to go overseas. In fact, I don't know if you remember, I visited Brooklyn on a weekend pass when I was stationed in Indianapolis. I came and spent a Shabbat with you in Brooklyn. The kids were very young. This would have been 1968, 69.